Okay, so remember that they're changing my voice and they're trying to mess up the video in various ways. They're trying to mess up the sound quality by changing my voice with fumes, what have you. And keep in mind, I have 23 witnesses to the psychological operation against me on record, okay? And some of them are very upstanding members of the community. And so, you see, I have no reason to lie. And there's people who are doctors, people who have studied psychology in college, and so on and so forth, who have testified to the various aspects well, there's one doctor of the psychological operation against me. Okay, so I was seeing a video about Protestants versus Catholics, okay, on the bridge. Okay, I believe this show is called. I'll put a screenshot on the screen. And I'm responding to the first 40 minutes of it. So first of all, several things stick out. One, obviously these people don't truly know what they're talking about when it comes to God. When it comes to the technicalities of Christianity from various perspectives and denominations and churches. And they have some understanding to quite a bit of research, right? But they don't really know what they're talking about. Okay. It's like if you made a video game based on my life, right? And you misconstrued who I am. Okay, you might know all the technicalities of the video game, but you don't really know me. You don't really understand my struggle and my beliefs and my system. So, when we're talking about Protestants and Catholics and Jews and Muslims, anyone else, as soon as they go into the realm of God, and they go into the realm of talking about how to serve God, and things that have to do with defining people, right? Because if you define God's plan a certain way, it affects how you view people, basically. Then you're going to the realm of martial arts, right? You're going into the realm of monotheistic martial arts, especially. And these people basically have no understanding of that idea. And there's a lot of people that think they understand, but they don't really understand. Again, just like with the video game, their martial arts systems are like video games. They know the technicalities of that system. And technical names for moves, technical rules for sporting events, and so on and so forth. And they know stretches and on, but they don't really understand the essence of martial arts. The essence of the Bible and the essence of monotheistic martial arts is obviously righteousness and justice, but it's also me. That's why Kiro Obi means black belt, which means king, heart, hut, essence, center, temple, core, right? Essence. And martial is marital scrambled. I, Christ, and the bridegroom. The word power has the word pow in it for a reason. Okay. And these languages, English is a Latin-based language. So there's a reason why that is. And, the Roman Catholic Church, Protestants sprang from the Catholic Church. In Rome, you also had the Orthodox Church in the Eastern Empire. And so as you look at this thing, it's clear that you can't just say, well, so what? That's in the wordplay. This is directly connected to the language. And in Revelation, it talks about languages. And also the word spirit, you have the word spear, the sound, right? The syllable, if you will, spear, it. So pow, ear, spear, it, bridegroom, heavenly warrior, defeating the beast. Right? Psalm 19. Okay. Now, if you look at their style, it's very, very much liberal. For the most part, it's where conservative and liberal overlap. It's gayish. And, to some degree, to secular people has certain appeal, right? They have a certain style, but it's very profane. You look at how they carry themselves, how they think. It's very typically Western. And whether it was the Western Church or the Eastern Church, all of Rome had it wrong. There was no person named Jesus Christ who was the Son of God who died literally and was resurrected literally. Just like the Bible is full of metaphor and parallels and figurative speech, there was no literal person there who was the Son of God. That never happened. Now, if we trace the history of the kind of thinking that went into the Bible, you see that it's clear. You can't be a serious historian and a serious person who gathers the facts, right? The way, the truth, and the life. And to believe that somebody who was named Jesus Christ literally died and was resurrected. First of all, and many people have pointed this out before, That would have been a major event. Rome was very influential. It would have been a major event that would have hit differently. Okay, I go as far as to say that there would be no opposition to Christianity in the Roman Empire, no serious opposition. And there was very serious opposition to Christianity in the Roman Empire. They did not have a lot of power initially. If somebody had died and come back to life, okay, my goodness, they all would basically be Christians. They would see it in each other, in their faces. They would understand what happened. People aren't that stupid. Even in Rome back then, as corrupt and evil and greedy as it was, if someone's, healing the sick and so on and so forth and helping the blind see, and they resurrect somebody and they die and come back to life, you can know for sure, that people would have been Christians. They would have immediately turned the empire into a Christian empire. That never happened. And the evidence that it never happened is overwhelming. However, the Bible is a story with a moral that goes back to ancient stories, and there must have been stories before those ancient recording stories that aren't recorded, because the peoples in that area, for the most part, had oral traditions and not written traditions. You see the story reflected in Dionysus and Mithra. You see it in Osiris. In fact, Serapis, who was one of the first false images of Christ, is Osiris mixed with Apis, mixed with Hades. So when you see this evidence come together and you see these people are Western themed and they're not persecuted, it should be straightforward to you that they don't actually worship God. They uphold social norms. 1 John 2:15, don't love the world or anything in the world. If anyone loves the world, love for the Father is not in them. That's a universal truth. The throne is established in righteousness. Proverbs 16:12, that's a universal truth. The greatest commandment, love God with all your being, that's a universal truth. If you love me, obey my commands. That's a universal truth. But obey whose commands? Well, the throne is established in righteousness. And the path of the righteous is like the morning sun. Again, the morning sun, shining ever brighter till the full light of day. Which goes back to Psalm 19, which tells us that the sun is the symbol of the bridegroom who's also a champion. And Psalm 18 talks about God training the king's hands for battle. And David versus Goliath, and Christ is the root and offspring of David and the bright morning star. And what that's saying in its pure form, because there's two major translations of that. One is just complete Greco-Roman mythology rubbish, and one is what obviously must be true. It's like you see someone look like Harry Potter or Peter Pan clicking his heels, saying that he's the root and offspring of David and the bright morning star. You say that person's crazy. Who cares? You see the top martial arts ever possible. That's why David faced Goliath. It's superimposed on martial combat, saying that he's the root and offspring of the most righteous warriors that ever lived, the one set apart as the Son of God, and he's symbolized by the sun. You know for sure that person's telling the truth, or you're crazy. And it's that simple. So with these truths in hand, which they absolutely refuse to address. They won't even address the idea of the wordplay. They refuse to address all my key points, every last one of them. And if they're so righteous and they're so quick to go on TV and all this, why won't they debate me? I've been making videos for 16 years. I've been arguing that I'm Christ for somewhere around 5 or 6 years. And before that, I argued that I should be leading the churches and everything else since about 2000, maybe 12 or 13. And before that, I was arguing that I was the spiritual leader of various groups going back to 2010 or so. About 15 years ago. And I live in California, which is the most populated state and one of the most populated countries in the world, the United States of America. A place which is the most competitive when it comes to martial arts because of diversity, because America is the country with the most martial arts schools in the world. And I have a top martial arts challenge, and my first challenge was in 2012, incidentally, and I have one in 2013. And I say this because God set me apart, not to brag. My top martial arts challenge hasn't got me any money. In fact, people financially sabotage me. It hasn't got me any females, and I've been shunned. And I predicted that I would be shunned around the time of my top martial arts challenge, in fact, which was in December 20th, 2013. And I was saying, hey, they're going to shun me. I'm telling you this because it's true. It's not going to get me women. It's going to get me targeted. And eventually the cancel culture comes out and everyone knows that people get canceled for far less than the things that I'm saying and doing. And people are organizing against me and harassing me and persecuting me and even fuming me and poisoning me all the time. I am persecuted for righteousness' sake. Mine is the kingdom of heaven. I am the top martial arts ever possible. I have the spiritual authority. Spirit. Tati, being straightforward and honest through the use of the stick, which was in Egypt. And Jesus hid in Egypt, not in Rome. In their own story. In Amos 9:7, are you not the same as the Cushites unto me, O children of Israel? And Ham begot Cush, Cush begot Nimrod, and Nimrod was a mighty warrior, a mighty hunter before the Lord. Right with God, a mighty warrior before the Lord. And just like with the Israelites, Israel was right with God in the story at some point, right? Jacob changed his name to Israel. But the Israelites were spoken very poorly of. Okay, Isaiah 1. He very much chastises the Jews and says they're given to corruption, wicked from the beginning onward. That's different from the moment that God blessed Israel. Same with Nimrod. Babylon the Great is fallen. Okay, the people of Nimrod, to some degree, are spoken of in a very negative way at times. Okay, and that's part of why Amos 9:7 says that. Are you not the same to me as the Cushites? Okay, are you not as the children of the Cushites unto me, O children of Israel, and things of that nature. Okay, in the various translations, what it's getting at, what have you. So, as I'm looking at their argument, for example, the Eucharist, is my spirit in them? No. I'm not trying to, bash these people, okay, per se. I mean, the Spirit of God is going to destroy them if they don't obey God through me. Period. Okay, and never forget that Christians go around telling people that God is going to send them to hell if they don't obey God through their, in their particular way. The reality is, if they don't obey God through me, they're going to hell. And I don't care that there's 2.4 billion Catholics or however many there are. Excuse me, it's actually 2.4 billion or 2.6, somewhere around there, billion Christians. And there's like 1.4 billion Catholics. I don't care. Okay, you're doing the wrong thing. I'm doing the right thing. You're lying about God. And God forbids you to lie about God. And you did not rally to me. Many Catholics are aware of what I'm doing. And you did not rally to me because you worship the devil. And you've dedicated your lives to mocking God. Some of you are nicer than others, but all of you are going to hell and to a place that's going to burn real hot because you're pretending to represent God, which is an extreme insult to God Almighty. God commands you to obey God through me and to stop playing around. And it's not the first time I've said this. And many Christians and Catholics know I've been saying things like this, and they refuse to obey. What more do I need to know about them? No good tree can bear bad fruit. If these people were trained by me, they would be willing to die on the drop of a hat for God, instead of cowering with their fake churches in extreme disgrace in their Luciferian spirits. Their deity is more like Dionysus and Apollo, who are the main candidates for Lucifer, a deity of Luciferian and pagan light and science and Western culture, and using the authority of secret societies and the governing class and the government and the military and the police and so on and so forth, instead of the authority of God. So when Satan is the god of this world and broad is the way to destruction, how can you as Catholics pretend that you're not on the way to destruction? There's like 1.4 billion of you. That's a lot of people. And you're nearly identical to the Protestants and everyone else who says they're Christian. Where's the difference? The difference between a Protestant and a Catholic, regardless of which one is worse, I'm not going to get into that in this video, is like the difference between two serial rapists and serial killers. Okay? Where one of them argues because they killed a few less people that they're magically right with God and the other one isn't. And it is outrageous, except for your churches have taken part in mass murder, mass rape, mass theft, mass idolatry, mass falsehood, what have you. And boy, have you really done a great disservice to God, as you firmly cemented it in people's minds on behalf of the governing class. You've convinced them that serving God, which is worthwhile, magically isn't. You've committed crimes against the Holy Spirit, which your book says cannot be forgiven, by misrepresenting the Holy Spirit. The purpose of the Eucharist, what it's superimposed on, right, in Mass and communion, is to come into the spirit of being willing to die for God on the drop of a hat in the divine order, the commandments and the chains of command. Jesus was not a literal person that literally did those things. The miracles are figurative, and they have to do with the top martial artist ever, the Son of God, which the fake forms of Horus are also superimposed on. Same with Osiris and Mithra and Zagreus and on, in a sense Zeus and so on and so forth. Okay, in a sense Zeus is superimposed on God. This is a story for another day. And I'm not God, I'm the Son of God. God's representative, the King of Kings, the gate. There is no way to be right with God without obeying God through me. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not cheat. The word cheat is a play on words for he cat and see he at. The West is historically racist. The slaves, even in Greece, some estimates have 50% of Greeks as slaves. The pagan culture is a slave culture, and you are slaves to these people regardless of race. All who sin are slaves to sin, and they're organizing their sins in churches. So my response is immediately obey God through me and stop being afraid of people in this world. Many of you love to say things like fear God and not man, and you fear man to the extreme, and you hardly fear God, if at all. And it is profoundly, profoundly disgrace. Speaking of profound, proof, pro of. Marshall is marital scrambled. Christ is the bridegroom. I'm Christ. The word Christ is the word hits in it. CR hits. Bethlehem, belt he ham. Righteousness and faithfulness are his belt and sash. Isaiah 11:5, I believe it is. All the evidence points to me. And it points to the story being figurative. As we look how water is being used in Revelation and connected to Genesis and how it's being used there. If we look in John, where it says that Jesus is speaking figuratively, and he's saying things in a certain way that has them confused. They think he's talking about actual living water. And it says by this he meant the Spirit. But he was talking as if he was literally talking about water, in a sense at least. And so there you have it. When you look at this thing and you ask yourself with all your heart and all your soul and all your being, and trying to love God with all your heart and all your soul and all your being, and try to treat everyone fairly, which is what it means to love your neighbors yourself, try to bring them to God, and you ask yourself which explanation of the Bible is true, only a pure evil monster would not know immediately that I'm telling the truth, and what you people are saying is Luciferian and it's falsehood. Thank you.